Hey, welcome 2024.
Hey everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone. How's everybody feeling? Got your feet back under you now that we've gotten through the holiday season, past all the fireworks or the big booms, as we call them in our house with our scaredy cat dog. Just hope that you guys are ready to start this year on the right foot with all the right thoughts, all the right sentiment. That's what we're here to do with you guys today. If you're thinking ahead for the year, don't forget we have EXPCon coming up in Miami this
Oh
year.
yeah, baby.
It's going to be super fun. Would love to
Woo!
have you guys all there where we can connect, build some memories, build some dreams together. And today we are going to focus on a topic that is really near and dear to our hearts. Honestly,
Very much.
Jeff and I focus a lot of our time around the idea of positivity, about engaging the positive neural pathways in your brain, staying out of those negative spirals that we can often get into. And there's no better time. I mean, every day is a great time to do that, but there's no better time than to really solidify that intention in your life, to move forward in positivity, to know that you have control of your world, your reactions, the way that you interact with everything around you. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth, and we're getting into what some people call a kind of a tutti frutti topic, maybe, but
No way, baby.
we know that there's science behind it, and it works. And why does it work? How do we know that it works?
Well, it's interesting because this is such an emergent field right now. We really started learning about this through a bunch of different avenues, but one that I think a lot of people are familiar with would be the Tony Robbins organization is super committed to this. And what's interesting is the higher you go in that organization, the higher everyone's wealth is, right? Once you get into like 7-figure earners clubs and those types of things, what's really fascinating is almost everyone is talking about this, what we're going to be talking about today. And so we thought, well, why make everybody wait? Like, it doesn't make sense. That's a little bit the cart before the horse. If you want to be a 7-figure earner, right? If you'd like to earn 7 figures in real estate or 7 figures in rev share or all of we've done those things. And we believe this to be a contributing factor to all of that. So we wanted to share the gift up front. And we've also had the amazing blessing of coaching some of the coaches from within that organization. And so now we're starting to get this like really inside picture on exactly how that works and needs to come to the market. And so we thought, we want to bless the community. We want to give you guys the same gifts that we have. And quite frankly, we view this as a superpower that we have. It's one of the reasons why we're able to apply less effort and get more result. And I think that has to be appealing to anybody who is like I am. I'm like the laziest high achiever in the world. And so hopefully you guys can relate. I see Steve laughing there, so that's good. Clearly you guys can relate. So let me jump in on getting these slides set up here and see if we can get lined up on our dealio.
It's funny. One of the things that we do at New Year's time with this renewal of a new annum is that we tend to look at what can we change. This is it's a great time, right? It's kind of the universal reset or recalibration time, which is not bad. But hopefully some of these tools and ideas today will help you have those tools in your pocket all the time. Because I'm going to be real, you guys. I've got 20 pounds I need to lose right now. Ugh, I hate that. I didn't set like a New Year's resolution, but I am, kind of getting back into my mindset, into that framework of I am the only one that has control over this. And so resetting some of those things. Also, some goals around work stuff, like a lot of things. But what it really comes down to is this idea of laws of attraction. We've all, there was the whole book, The Secret, and the movie, I guess, that went with it. I never saw the movie, but the reality is there is science behind this idea of laws of attraction. It's funny that in the history of humanity, we've spent so much time focusing on like psychology and mental health, which is awesome, but we really have always looked at it from the negative perspective. Now, one of the emerging sciences is really about the science of happiness. And so it's kind of like if we use the term healthcare, but we really don't have healthcare, we have sick care, right? So it's interesting when you think about that and we think about psychology, you can get help. We say, oh, there's nothing negative about going to a therapist or a counselor, and there's not. But one of the most beautiful things is when you can go to someone like that and get help with your happiness, not just help with your depression. You kind of need both. And so it really is, when you think of yin and yang, we know that life is always going to give you, some stinkers, but what do you do with those and how do you turn that to the positive perspective? So to get onto the other side, the positive side, of the yin and the yang.
So today we're going to cover all 12 laws. And there's not only 12, but these are kind of the most commonly accepted. If you read different books on this, and by the way, we're going to talk about how this connects to physics and how it connects to actual hard science today, why there's becoming a whole body of hard data around doing this. And the reality is that, Steve says he has to kill the sugar demon. I understand that. And so there's hard data around how this works, but whether you really want this to be something that's more of a spiritual journey for you, or whether you're looking for hard science, hard facts, and hard data that support it, it's all there for you. And we just want you guys to know that whether it's science or mindset, in either case, it works. And who cares? So don't argue with success. In fact, we have a lot of friends here in our neighborhood. We live in a very interesting place who are many 8-figure, 9-figure, 10-figure billionaires, etc. It's really fascinating. And every single person we talk to is intimately familiar with, and most of them using aggressively, this concept. And there was so much pervasiveness actually when we started kind of getting into this sphere of influence that we said, okay, this is not just like something that some people do. Dale Carnegie was onto something. Jim Rohn was onto something. Apparently there is some validity here. And so we're going to cover exactly what this is and how it works.
And we're going to have a couple of exercises that we think will help you throughout the year on whatever it is that you want to tackle. So let's get started.
That's awesome. Well, so the very first law that we're going to cover today is called the law of vibration. The law of vibration. And we're going to cover what that is in a moment. But first off, we'll start with a couple of quotes from Mr. Tesla himself, not Elon Musk, Nikola Tesla, the OG Tesla. And he said two things. One, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, he was a scientist, by the way, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. Everything is a vibration, Nikola Tesla. And I think that is really something that's beautiful to remember, and something that innately inside of human beings we actually feel. We feel this connectedness with everything around us and other people, and yet we don't really understand how to perceive that or how to operate in it to gain some control inside of our universe. So we're going to talk a little bit about this today.
You've heard us talk a little bit about those peptides that create this actual energy reaction in your brain. We won't go into all of that, but think about all the times in your life when you've had those funky moments where all of a sudden you're just like, wow, I need to call my sister. I'm just like feeling her today. And you call and she's like, how did you know I needed to talk with you?
Actually, could you guys do us a favor? I'd love to see in the chat, because this is always so fun to get a little feedback. That's a really great point. If you guys have ever had an experience like that, where you thought of someone else and then you spoke to them and they were like, that's interesting, I was thinking about you too, or I really needed to talk to you today, or whatever. Like you basically had a premonition that became true for you. Happens to me all the time, Delita says. That's awesome. Who else has had this? Jack Figueroa, yeah, absolutely, or Ferrugia, sorry. Absolutely. Kiki Todi says yes. Tyler, actually happened with people I haven't talked to in years. Yeah. Liz says for sure. I know it happens with both of us, constantly, both with each other, and then Lexy with her siblings. G-Team says yes. It was someone I hadn't talked to in years. I called and she was in crisis, right? So interesting. There is a connection.
And even more so that is, happens. Yep. What's interesting to me is, what about this? Maybe you've had let's go, I'll use a real estate example. So maybe you have not talked to your client in a little bit, and you see them and you're nervous that maybe they're upset about something, and you can tell in their body language that they are or they're not. How many times have you gone into some sort of a face-to-face interaction with someone and thought that they were going to be upset, but then by their body language, just the way they were moving, the way that they looked at you, you could tell that it was okay, or vice versa, that it wasn't okay.
Oh,
We like to say, body language is the most pervasive and most significant way of communicating with human beings and in the animal world, as it turns out. But what is it that stimulates those behaviors? What is it that makes us do this? It's partly psychology, but a lot of that is the energy and the vibration that you feel. So we see it, but we also feel that, we get that sense. So I picked up a listing like that. There you go.
yep.
Yep.
It's interesting because there's actually been some studies, even on people who are blind. And I think that's really fascinating to eliminate senses, because we rely on the senses that we have, guys, right? So we rely on our eyes a lot, on our ears a lot, on our mouths, probably too much. But how we're sensing and perceiving the world only is limited by the ways that we can perceive it. We happen to know that there are light spectrums outside of our visible realm. We're going to get down to how this helps you sell more real estate, by the way, in case anybody's worried about that. But I do want you to know. But what if it's possible that we're actually constantly perceiving things that we're not aware that we're perceiving? Does that make sense? In other words, you have other senses that are allowing you to know when to call your sister, or when your friend is in crisis that you haven't talked to in years and they need you. That's interesting. It's like a human spidey sense or bat signal.
But what I like about this in the idea of attraction, and how does that relate to your interpersonal relationships or your business? And that is the fact that you need to be aware not only of your own vibrations, that's what we're really going to focus on. Because remember, at the end of the day, you can change yourself, but you can't change anybody else. So you really have to start right here and emanate out into your world and into your space. But what I like about it is, number one, it's always in your control. But
100%.
number two, when we say things like read the audience, have you ever like hung out with somebody who's just kind of obtuse? Like they have no perception of what's going on around them. And you see them talking to
Yes.
someone, and that other person is like, oh my gosh, I cannot stand you. Or I think what you're saying right now is so horrible. And they have no idea. But it is up to us to be open both ways, right? So a door, when it's open, allows passage from the inside out and the outside in. That's what we're going to be talking about today, is what kind of, right now, the topic is vibration. So what kind of vibration are you releasing out from you into the world? Are you aware of those vibrations? Are you in control of those vibrations? And what else are you letting in?
Yep.
So that's really important. And that's the thing that I think, honestly, we get really lazy about. We're not good gatekeepers. And so we need to think about that. But, thinking about attracting something means putting out the right kind of vibration, the right kind of frequency that allows the same door to open inward.
Absolutely. In fact, we're going to share some exercises today that we've picked up from some of the top masterminds that we're a part of, that we want you guys to have access to. And we sometimes call this being in flow. There's a crazy name down here. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi wrote a book called Flow. It's in English though, unlike his name. And so, but great book. And this concept of flow really is that you are aligned with the vibration around you. Some people call it, I feel like I'm in purpose, or I feel like I've reached my joy, or I'm feeling passion. All of those things happen when you feel aligned with the energy and vibration around you. And today we're going to give you the control back so that you don't have to keep waiting for your passion to show back up. It's already there. We're going to show you how to harness it. It's going to be really great. All right. So this is really good stuff. We ready to go to number 2? Awesome. Number 2.
The law of correspondence. So as within, so without, as above, so below is
Love
our
that.
quote. It's really about what I was saying. That door is open, and what's coming in and going out is really important, because if we lock ourselves up, how many of you guys have built an emotional wall around yourself? at times.
Ooh, hit
Or
us in the
maybe you
chat.
still have one that if you're realistic with yourself, you're like, yeah, I really do. Like maybe you have a trust issue from a previous relationship, or maybe you're down on yourself because of a mistake that you made that you've never let go, or whatever it is. So we feel those, and the problem is, so does everybody else. And sometimes those manifest in some really negative ways, like
Mhm.
getting a rash from stress. How many of you guys have done that? Or some people have their hair fall out, or there are some interesting bleachy, blotchy conditions
Mhm.
that you can get on your skin, or been so worried that you make yourself sick. I mean, it's a real energy suck when we focus on negative things and when we choose not to get kind of out of that realm or to break down those walls. So, we're going to talk about how those thoughts and beliefs really manifest in your reality. And that correspondence is just that it is connected. We must see that those things are connected.
I love that. So number three is called the law of attraction. And we've got a great quote here from Brian Tracy, awesome author. If you haven't read his stuff, he says, "You are a living magnet." And this is really interesting, guys. You are a living magnet. What you attract into your life is in harmony with your dominant thoughts. With your dominant thoughts. What you think about the most becomes real for you. Think about that. And we sometimes dumb this down to like attracts like. You hear this a lot in business circles. If you haven't been exposed to that quote yet, that's a good one to remember. Like attracts like.
This is why our parents, when we were younger, were so worried about who our friends were,
Oh my gosh.
because they kind of thought of it as being like a bad influence. But the reality is this: it's like attracts like. It's that who you spend time with is a reflection on you, and it will suck you into whatever those behaviors or ways of thinking are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if positive thoughts and emotions, you can see this on the screen, attract more positive experiences, and negative thoughts and emotions attract more negative experiences. And I don't feel like it's hard to understand which side of that we'd like to up on, but sometimes it's a little convoluted on how do we start to do some exercises that get us into that. So, again, today we're going to cover the theory up front and then exercises at the back. So if you hang in there with us, we're going to show you how to do this, not just think this.
I am, how many of you guys that I know, I'm super guilty of this. Like an example, last night we were in our sweats, all comfy for the night. And a really great friend of ours who lives close and has family here for the holidays messaged and said, "Hey, we're playing games. You guys should come over." And we kind of looked at each other like, "Ugh, I'm so tired. I don't really want to do that." And we went, and you guys literally opened the door, and it was this massive group of people yelling, screaming, laughing. They're playing this
So
game.
fun.
And my energy instantly changed. I think
100%.
I slept better last night because we went. I didn't win the game, which was a bummer, but that's okay. It was still fun. But it was the energy. And
So true.
yeah, it was
Well,
really an eye opener for me, even last night.
it was great. And what's interesting is how many times those for us have turned into additional layers of opportunity that connects to an even bigger kind of business progression. So we're going to talk about that today as well. So the law of inspired action, and the key words here are inspired. First off, right? So you have inspiration and action. We're going to get down to both of those. Tony Robbins says the path to success is to take massive, determined action. Hopefully, you've all heard that. If you haven't, and this is your first time, tattoo that one on your arm. Massive action is a big deal. You've got to take a lot of action or nothing happens, right? Knowing things is not the same as doing things. I could read every book on swimming and I will not win the Olympics. So to manifest your desires, you have to take inspired and aligned action, which means there needs to be alignment between your thoughts and your behaviors. You can't just do the thing, you have to have the belief. And I have a great story on that in just a second. It's not just about positive thinking, it's about positive, purposeful action. When I was in grad school, I studied music and I got to work with a string quartet called the Chiara String Quartet. This is the same year they won like 3 Grammy Awards. Incredible. And they were artists in residence at our university at the time. And why do I tell you that? Well, every single day, they would do a visualization run through of their performance that they were coming up on. Now, I want you guys to know, sometimes these were 45-minute to an hour-long performances, and they would literally visualize in silence together in the same room this performance. Not making notes on their instruments. Why was it so powerful? Because they were visualizing a perfect performance every time.
And the energy was there.
Holy moly, think about the power of that. And I got to witness one of these. I actually sat through one, which sounds odd. It's a bunch of quiet people sitting in a quiet room with quiet people at the front. It's very strange to think about. And I will tell you, by the end, they actually measured their heart rates. Their heart rates had all doubled. They were pouring sweat. Like they had gone through the entire thing. Turns out Olympic athletes do this. Politicians do this before big speeches. This is a really big deal. How many of you have ever actually visualized a listing appointment going perfectly before you go into the house? How many have visualized a recruiting appointment going perfectly before you speak to that great agent that you're excited to speak to about EXP? How many people have had that experience where you visualize something, but you don't just visualize it, right? Like sometimes when we visualize things, I've been guilty of this for sure. I visualize the catastrophe that could go wrong, and then I experience that fear. But it takes required, inspired, purposeful action to say, I'm now going to visualize this going perfectly. John says he visualizes a whole round of golf and tournaments. I think that's amazing. And to visualize that going perfectly, hole in one on every one. By the way, I've been familiar with the fact that John knows how to do a hole in one. And so won some money, I think, doing that recently. Can you imagine, though, going through the visualization and your body, your mind, your soul, every part of your DNA believes that that has happened. And what's interesting with perspective is our minds can't tell the difference between something that we perceive with our eyes and ears and something that we perceive with our minds. It's the same. So if you perceive it with your mind, it becomes true for your body. It's really, really good stuff. All right, let's get back to our screen here. This is not just a positive thinking exercise, but it is about action. We'll talk more about that in a moment.
Okay, the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Transmutation, what is that? That means it changes over time. It changes over experience. It changes over circumstance. So energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. Energy is emitted and never really goes away. Think about the cycle of life, and that whole concept of death and I don't know, like degrading,
Yep.
composting, all of those things that just creates new energy. So every time you emit energy out into the world, it's taken from someone else or something else, and changes and manifests itself in different ways.
Kind of takes the idea of destruction away, which
Yep.
is awesome.
Yep.
So we really believe that this is about energy that you can emit through your thoughts and feelings. Ultimately, thoughts and feelings are what? They're electrical signals. They're energy. Interestingly, all of that has a vibrational force. All of that is connected to everything else that has a vibrational force. It's all the same stuff, guys. This is what's fun. Where we say, oh, I feel like I can have a thought and manifest something on the other side of the world. Turns out through quantum physics, we're starting to realize that electrons on this side of the universe or galaxy can be connected to the other side in real time. No lag time at all. No communication. Doesn't have to make a phone call, right? Like it's crazy. And so the more we learn about it, we're going to learn in 1,000 years how dumb we all are right now. But for now, we can just understand that we're starting to see that this is real. And turns out even 50 years ago, people were talking about this. The Carnegies were all about this. This is pretty awesome stuff. And you can change your circumstances immediately by changing the energy that you emit through your thoughts and feelings. Again, we have exercises for this today. We're going to show you how to do this and how to have this perspective shift.
Law of cause and effect. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, which is really interesting to me. But think of those words. This is the one thing we all hear that we're like, okay, Newton, yeah, we all grew up with that. But every action, there is a reaction. So this means you have to be intentional with what energy you are putting out there. That's the cause piece, remember? So equally, you have to be the gatekeeper of what's coming in, what actions are coming in, and then that reaction is what you do with it. So we talk about your thoughts and actions creating specific effects in your life. And again, this is about creating the cause. You are at cause. We've heard about that
I love that.
concept before, but when you are at cause, that means you are intentional. It means you are focused. It means you are aware and in the moment in every time you emit energy outward, basically when you have interactions, you should be thinking about those interactions in the moment, but before the moment and everything else, so that you're poised. A lot of performers, whether it's music, acting, any kind of sports, it is about that visualization so that when you get in that moment, that is what you're putting forward. If you don't, if you're leaving it up to chance, if you're not intentional about what kind of energy you're emitting, guess what? You're gonna you leave it up to chance, and
Right.
that effect may not be what you want, and so you may be in a position of reacting in a really negative way
Mm.
instead of being able to respond and control how you take
Kind
them.
of that victim mindset type of a thing, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, the reality is we are in control of most things in our life. I think about when I'm driving down the road, and you have to get somewhere. If you have to pick someone up at the airport, you don't really have an option, right? I mean, you might be late if there's a something in your way, but you don't. You've got to get there. Well, if something happens in the road, you're going to figure it out, right? You're going to take another route. You're going to hopefully, if you have navigation or you know the area well, you're going to be like, oh, I could take Smith Road instead, and it'll take me a few minutes longer, but I'll get there, or whatever. Or even just, hey, I need to call. I need to make a call. I need to send a text to that person and just be like, hey, when you land, I may be a few minutes late. We've got a little backup. I'll be in touch. Whatever it is, we have control. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves
Hmm.
um, that really this is just a puzzle that you're putting together. It's a problem that needs to be solved. There is a solution. We get frustrated so easily, but sometimes it just is like, whew, we need to take a breath, handle it, be in control, be at cause for the way that we respond and for the way that we put energy out there.
I love that. It's like, has anyone ever had a client like cancel a listing or decide not to work with you, or a transaction falls out or whatever, and then we have that response of or reaction, I guess it would be in this case, of, oh, why do bad things always keep happening to me? Or, oh, this happened to me. What's interesting about this mindset shift is that it allows us to still retain control and ownership. It's like radical ownership to say, I, I am at cause even with this, which means I in the future have the ability to avoid this, right? Because the alternative is to feel like I'm constantly just here, universe coming at me. But it's not true. What we know to be true is that you can control the realities that are around you. And this is really part of what governs and guides that.
What is it? We have a lot of Navy SEAL stuff, but there's that. You have three choices, three options in life. You can give up, give in, or give it all you got.
Woo, get that.
I don't know. I mean, I definitely have moments where I want to give in, where I want to cry uncle, and I'm like, okay, this is the too hard button. But you always figure it out. And then we actually have some other laws that kind of talk about that,
Mhm.
about like perspective and those kinds of things. Law of polarity. I love this. The darkest hour is only 60 minutes.
Yeah, Morris Mandel quote. Everything has an opposite. It's like poles on a magnet. There's a positive side and a negative side, and it's very easy to lose track of this. And again, while this is a mindset shift, we're going to talk about how all of this will draw more success toward you. If you want 2024 to be your year, I'm glad you're here on January 3rd, because we're going to cover some exercises today that are going to give you the keys back to controlling these laws today. And that's what's so exciting. But in every challenging situation, there's an opportunity for growth and improvement, for learning, if nothing else. And this really, guys, is not just about having a silver lining, right? Just being kind of a Pollyanna, like positive person. Oh, it's okay that, I've got a fork sticking out of my eye. It's about understanding the inherent duality of everything. There's always something to be learned, always something to be gained, or an avenue for change, even in the worst situations. And so instead of the fork in the eye, let's do the fork in the road. Which route are you going to take? All right.
If you haven't read Robert Frost in a while, go back and read that because it's really kind of about that.
True story.
We all know this. Everything is relative. The law of relativity is perspective, really, at the end of the day. So we know life is 10% what happens, and 90% how we react to it. Um, the second point, we had a lot of conversation around this, but your challenges may seem big until you compare them to someone else's experiences. Meaning someone has already run the 4-minute mile and you can learn from that. It doesn't mean like, wow, my situation is really crappy, but oh, look at so and so, theirs is worse. It could be worse. Yeah, of course. I mean, it can always be worse, I suppose, but it's not about the comparative analysis of you compared to someone else. What we should really be looking at is I'm going through a rough time. Someone else has gone through a rough time too, and yet they worked it out. Sometimes we want to commiserate with people who, misery loves company. Wow, what a horrible choice to make.
Yeah,
Sometimes you
that's
do.
bad company.
Sometimes you do want that moment though, right? You've got to be able to say, look, I just need a bitch session for a second. Like, just let me get this out. I always like to preface that with people so that they know I'm not just being a negative Nelly, but it's like I just have to vent for a second, and then I need some, constructive insight or some help, some little hand holding here to help me get to off of the cliff and back onto terra firma. So I think it's great to be able to do that. And we always have to have perspective, or it has to be, relative to something else. It's what gives us a tangible. And so it's what helps you respond versus react.
Mhm.
React is, knee jerk, more chaotic, less structured. A response is when you've taken that breath, when you've been able to recenter, when you've been able to get that perspective and make it, relative to what it is. I mean, how many of you guys have had um, an argument with a significant other, or a frustration at how many of you guys have seen this one? It cracks me up. How many of you guys have seen the video of the poor girl at the airport car rental location and she loses her absolute mind? Have you guys seen
Oh,
this? She
I
has
love
like
that video.
an utter meltdown. It's horrible. I
I feel bad
cringe.
for her, but I do love that
I
video.
cringe every time I see it, but she is just at the end of her rope. I think we've all been there, and she cannot handle
Sounds like a
herself.
tea kettle.
Yeah, she's stomping, she's screaming, I mean, it is unbelievable. But we've all had that moment, right? If she had just gone into the bathroom, said a few, bad words, like done some ninja punches or whatever, put some water on her face and collected herself, she probably would not have gone viral on YouTube and every other social media format as the crazy lunatic at the rental counter. But that's the difference between reaction and responding. And ultimately, it comes down to control and a
Mm.
choice of what kind of energy we're putting out
I
there.
love that you said control because sometimes as well, I think people will look at other people who've gotten through a similar situation and then as a disempowering statement, and I've done this, I'll say, oh, they got lucky. Really? Did they get lucky? It's an interesting way to excuse our own failures, right? So in that moment, there's an opportunity to say maybe there were small changes that I couldn't see that they executed on that next time I get to do differently, so I can duplicate their success. But when I call it luck, I make it unachievable because luck is not something I can control, right? The reason that we as humans use the word luck so damn much, or I don't, but we shouldn't, is that it's an excuse. It's an opportunity for me to say, "Oh, I'm not in control of anything." As our friend Jerry says, I just go with the whimsical winds of the world. JJ, I see your hand up, brother.
No, I love all this stuff you guys are talking about, and I was just on a mastermind call where we're talking about this. Also, the other biggest mistake that you can make is hating on that person, right? Other than if you say they're lucky, or if you're like, man, that person's such a bleep and bleep, or I hate that for them, or I wish. You're also telling, if we're talking about law of attraction, right?
Yep.
You're also telling the universe that you don't want that success because you're infusing that hate, right? You're saying that that person sucks for this, and it's like the universe is saying, all right, well, I won't send you those opportunities, I won't send you that kind of success because obviously it irritates you on a level that you do not like it. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to pop that in there because it was so relevant to yesterday's mastermind conversation. Thank you guys.
I love it. Thanks for that, JJ.
100%.
And it's true because the thing, I mean, we all have to visualize in our own way. The one thing that works for me is the visualizing a door,
Mhm.
because a door closed is not easy to break through, right? I mean, there's really very little path through a door, but an open door allows both movement in both directions.
Mhm.
So whatever it is that you can visualize in that moment, just taking a second to like, okay, I want this door to be open. And we have some exercises that are going to help, because we we often, too often, stop at the visualization like we think that's enough, and it's not enough. That helps open the door, but the whole point is to go through the door, right? Is to walk through the opportunity. Joanne
Mhm.
talks about, mentioned preparation meets opportunity.
Mhm.
This is preparation is really about being in control, remembering that you're in control, empowering yourself with that energy to say, man, this sucks right now, but I can do this. I can put this puzzle together. I can solve this problem. I can open the door and walk through it. And so the door is that opportunity. And I love that, Joanne. So thanks. The preparation, though, is really keeping yourself in control all the time to know that I can put the right vibes out there,
100%.
and get the right response, and not close myself off from those other things, like JJ said, because I believe that if energy flows, you got to be open to it. You got to find a way to open the door without being like, oh, peek. Okay, now I see that. And then close the door again. You can't, you have to keep it open. You've got to
100%.
stay there.
100%. I love it. All right. So the next law, and again, we're going through the 12 of these and then exercises, guys. So the exercises are where we're going to get down to business. This is where you're going to make this work for you and make 2024 absolutely insane. All right. Number 9, the law of belief. Whatever, by the way, if you haven't read Napoleon Hill, go read everything he wrote. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. I know there's a lot of rhyming in that, Napoleon Hill, but I'm telling you right now, this is powerful. Whatever you can think of, whatever you can conceive, whatever you believe in your heart, your mind, your body, your DNA to be true, you can achieve. And we know that we put it here as conviction. You need conviction around your thoughts in order for them to become your reality, because we just know that your belief is your perspective, and that's what shapes your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. You won't do anything unless you believe it will work, right? It kind of reminds me of what was Harrison Ford in that movie where he has to step across the invisible bridge. It was somebody put it in the chat.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, thank you. I knew it was one of those. All right. And he has to step across the invisible bridge, right? He needed to believe that that was there, or it wasn't going to work for him. You always have a choice, but this last statement, and read this a couple times because it takes a moment to really feel the weight of this. You must believe that your future reality is already real. You must believe that your future reality is already real. And as it turns out, as we're figuring out how time works, this kind of goes back to the physics part of the argument here. Time is a singularity. We happen to experience it in a linear format, which means your future is already real. The belief is what will draw or manifest that attraction towards you. It's what's going to attract that greatness. And so this law of belief is super potent, but without belief, none of this works.
Well, and what did Harrison Ford have to do? He believed it was there, and then he actually took the step.
Yeah, where he saw just a chasm, right? Oh man,
Yep.
I don't know. That's pretty scary. All right, we've all done scary things, so that's okay. We know how to work that. The law of reciprocity.
And guess what? We're a couple. So we get this. If I'm not very nice to Jeff, I usually get not very nice back.
That's not intentional.
Funny how that works though, but right when somebody's really crappy to you, you're like, dude, back off. Like, who pissed in your post toasties this morning? It wasn't me. So take a break, but it's true what we put out there. And it's so dumb, because I think about times when I've unintentionally picked a fight with someone or done something, and I didn't mean for that to happen. And when they come back at me, I'm like, yeah, I probably put that out there.
Yeah.
So it really is a give and take. You do get what you put out.
Probably with an amplifier attached to it.
Well, big time, big time. But what I find most interesting is that it's really fear that keeps the door closed. And in order to open that door again, you have to be able to visualize beyond the fear. And that's what you were talking about. You have to believe that it's there. even if you can't see it yet, I mean, and sometimes you take let's just take the weight loss one because that's one that's on a lot of people's minds at this time of year. I don't usually like to think of weight in terms of pounds, but in terms of like just my physical condition. I'm not in great physical condition right now. But you can visualize it by some people have their goal genes, their goal weightlifting, whatever it is, whatever that goal is. If you think about if you set a goal and then you can go past it. When I was a runner, I knew that I could run further if I just set one little target. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to run to that lamp, that light post. And I'd be like, no, I can actually go a little bit further. But if you keep giving, it comes back. It comes back in more just to yourself. It's like a boomerang. So reciprocity is to others, but also to yourself. And to me, reciprocity means putting it out there so much that you can overcome the fear. You can overcome the walls that you've built around yourself. And giving is more brave than taking.
Yeah. By the way, I've only made the mistake of going running with Lexy one time, and I will never do that again. She whooped me so hard, y'all. Like, unbelievable.
I'm out of shape right now.
Holy moly.
We're getting back.
Mopped me up. All right. So the law of detachment. Again, this is number 11 of 12. We're almost there. And then we're into activity for the day to get our actions aligned with this understanding. So law of detachment. Check out this quote, Deepak Chopra. The moment you detach from all things, including yourself, you'll have the ability to freely choose your own path. That is fascinating, and you may need to read it 3 times. I did, in order to really wrap my head around that. But the moment that you detach from all things, including yourself, you'll have the ability to freely choose your own path. And there's a freedom in detachment. Sometimes we feel so bound by our obligations or the things that we feel like, I have to do this, I have to do that. Ultimately, you have to eat, breathe, and drink water. Those are the have-tos that ultimately exist in your world. Everything else is a choice. And frankly, even those probably, but then you may transmutate into a different form of energy. So you have to allow things to happen without being overly attached to the outcome is really what we're trying to get to here. If you become too attached to outcomes, what happens is you forget that the journey is part of your purpose, and your purpose is part of what brings you that joy and passion that we've been talking about. And if we detach from the journey and we become only about outcomes, then most of our life becomes about disappointment. Right? Because I had an expectation I would reach the destination and I forgot about the 5 million blessings I received getting 99% of the way there. That's a really huge mistake.
Well, and some things we really have to leave. It's about progress. And so there's the Buddha saying of the same man never steps in the same river twice. So that means that you're never the same person. Your life changes in every single moment. You're a new person with every breath that you take. So detaching means, so if I'm saying, okay, I've become a bit of a couch potato, I need to get rid of my fear of going to the gym and being out of shape, or going on a run and being like, holy crap, I couldn't even run a quarter of a mile, let alone 2 or 3 miles. But I have to get over that. I have to detach from my fear that has become a part of me now. I have to, detach from, Steve said, sweets, got to kick the sugar habit. You gotta do that. And let's see. Oh, I just am seeing that, you have to let go because those become part of you. Again, it's a choice. Don't worry about the outcome. Don't worry about what you're tied to, what fence post you've changed yourself to. Take yourself out of the equation. Sometimes, I think about when, what is it? It's phobia therapies where like you go bungee jumping when you are deathly afraid of heights. You have to completely detach from the you that's afraid of heights. You just get on the platform and jump. And that same person is not there anymore. So you have to think about, do I really need this stuff? Do I really need the expectation? Do I need that fear? Do I need that emotional wall that I've put around myself? Who can I become? Who can I attract? What can I accomplish if I forget that? If I just choose to move past that?
It's so easy to crave we'll use financial success as an example really quickly. It's so easy to crave financial success, but not very many people that I talk to anyway, on a regular basis will say, I really crave all of the struggles that I'm going to have to go through to reach that financial success because I know it's part of the journey. Or I crave the challenge of becoming the person I must become in order to achieve that financial success, right? Achieving an outcome is great, but it happens only at the finish line of the process of becoming that has to happen in order to reach that finish line. And this is all part of the powerful journey of life.
I think instinctually, we are not supposed to be attached within. We're supposed to be focused outward all the time and to be in that state of detachment. Even though our id tells us something different, but I think it's because, think about it. Your eyes only look one direction. They look out. If you play the game of, if I had $1 million to spend only on myself today, what would I spend it on? Have you guys ever done this? Think about, I want you guys take 15 seconds. If you had to today spend, let's just do $10,000. Well, no, let's do $1 million. $1 million. That's a lot of money you can spend today,
Checks in the mail.
but only on yourself. Can you do it? Only on yourself. How many of you guys can spend $1 million today
By the
on
way,
yourself?
no investing. I saw John buying property over there.
Who's able to do it? I'm never able to do this. I can never spend $1 million
Neither of us
on
can.
myself
We've gone through this so many times. It's hilarious.
because it's not ever about you, because we are connected to so much else. And so that detachment is already part of us. We just have to practice going through the motions of leaving our old self, of getting out of that shell and moving into the next one.
And by the way, quick addition here. If for some reason you were like, I know the $1 million boat that I would buy, that's great. By the way, you wouldn't go on it by yourself. So I would argue that still, because you want
Correct.
human connection that's at the nexus of owning that boat and having friends.
If you're going to buy $1 million house, are you going to live in it all by
yourself and never show it to anyone, right? It's ultimately,
Nope.
it's never truly separated from other people. It's always because there's a sense of giving or building community or building connection or being able to share that gift with other people. But if you can't do it at $1 million, go to 10. If you can't do it at 10, go to $1 billion and you have to spend it on yourself today. I promise you'll reach a number where you go, this is ridiculous. I would just want to give it all away to my friends and family because I love them so much. And I would want to be the person who gets to give that way. And that is also a form of embracing this sense of detachment here.
Yep.
Okay, and number 12. Number 12 is the law of pure potentiality. And we talk a lot about our potential here in the community, and I love that we're talking about this today. The great and amazing Oprah Winfrey says, your potential is endless. I love that she says this, by the way, to everyone, because I believe that to be true as well. Go do what you were created to do. Your potential is endless. Go do what you were created to do. Now, everyone has a different idea about creation, so we're not going to get into that today, but I will say this. You were created. How do I know? You're here. That's awesome. And so you're connected to an infinite field of potentiality or your own potential, what you are truly capable of. And there's a really, really better than average chance that you're not quite aware even of how profound that potential is. Now, I've heard this stated in the negative, which I love. By the way, it's a great coaching statement of the definition of hell is dying and you meet the person that you could have become. Wow. I hope that doesn't happen, right? And if it does happen, I hope it's just a mirror. But you have to tap into this source by being open and receptive. I mean, ultimately, the Navy SEALs, who are amazing, right? Everyone loves the Navy SEALs. They have a belief that when you hit your give up point, right? That moment when you're like, I can't go anymore, period. For them, maybe that was physically or mentally, emotionally, you're only at 40% of your potential. In other words, you still got 2.5 times. Like, let's go, baby. You're not even close. You just think that you are because why? You're stretching, you're growing, and growing is painful. Comfort is stagnation. Comfort is sitting still. Comfort means you're getting smaller. Everyone thinks that they wish to be comfortable. I promise you don't. Start to embrace discomfort and you will embrace growth, and growth is where true stability comes from. And that's what we really are craving. Be willing to push yourself much, much, much further to make progress towards your goal. And we got a couple great quotes here. The first one is from David Goggins. I know a lot of people have been reading his stuff, so he's awesome. You're in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you'll die without ever realizing your true potential. Yikes. Let's hope that doesn't happen. And then the last one here, just from the SEALs, it's a bit more generic to them. Failure is not falling down, but refusing to get up. You have to get up. Okay, so we've covered the 12 laws, and now what's going to be really powerful is we're going to go through some exercises, and these are exercises that we do personally and also teach personally. And so really want you guys to embrace these. If you have a blank piece of paper, by the way, you could do some of this right now. We're also going to give you some links. We have some handouts that could be helpful as we go through this. But ultimately, we would encourage you to be a full participant. We know that how you participate anywhere is how you participate everywhere. So this is a really important part of your day. How do I know? You're here. Let's keep going.
All right. Exercise 1. You've heard us say this so many times.
Won't be the last.
It won't be the last, because I'm telling you, we live this every single day. On our worst days, this is the beacon of light that brings us back around, and it's so essential to what you do. Why does this work? So this is about at least three daily gratitudes. 3 is just a great easy number, but do 15 if it's meaningful for you. What you focus on, you get more of. So it's all about that RAS. It's about putting that in focus. It's about setting the vision. It's that visualization. There's an exercise that you can do where you sit in a room and you're told, I want you to look and find 5 things that are wrong. I mean, you could do it right where you are. It's called flooding. And so this is about flooding your mental space, your vision, your emotionality around the things that are wrong. So if you were to stop right now and look around the room and find 10 things that you don't like about that room, things that, maybe you've been meaning to caulk that little spot, or there's some paint that always had a drip spot that just drives you
Just
nuts.
past 10, dang it.
Or you see, so I mean, how many things in your room can you find those? Sure. How many people found negative elements in their room right off the bat? Absolutely.
Love
Yep. Now you can do the same thing, but now look for 10 things that you absolutely love about the space you're in right now. Yep. Easy, right? So one is not harder than the other, but one feels a lot better.
I literally got goosebumps, actually. It was funny. I noticed a couple things I haven't looked at in a while in this room.
Right. And it's really focusing your brain on those things. And then that's what you see. They're always going to be terrible things. How many of you guys have known someone who has died with such grace that you are like, wow, like you feel guilty because even the thought of death is harder than the way they made it look. I mean, watching someone die with grace is a huge gift, and we have a lot to learn from that, right? And it's a part of our life. Your mother-in-law last June, what a great gift, Steve. But how many of us initially think about death and it creates fear? It makes us scared, worried, depressed, a whole bunch of things, right? Ultimately, we have the choice. You never know who's watching you, for one, dying with grace or living with perseverance or a positive attitude in gratitude. I mean, those are the things we have to focus on. And so being in the habit, practicing, it is really practicing gratitude is what keeps your eyes focused on those things all the time. And even when you see a not so graceful example, you can take from that and spin it and say, I don't want to do it like that.
Mm,
I want to do it like this.
that's awesome.
And that's the power. And that's what we mean by you have choice all the time in what you do. So practicing those gratitudes, staying focused on those things, and being gratitude specific. And here's what I mean. We've told you guys this before. If we have an issue between us, a fight, an argument, a disagreement, whatever it is, we will go to gratitudes. We will debrief what's not working right in communication or where we both stand. But if we go to gratitudes in that topic, it changes the whole feeling of it.
100%.
So we can be in a fight and be like, okay, let's pause, let's debrief a little, and what are some gratitudes from that experience? Shockingly, there are some really positive things that you can get
Amazing
even at
outcomes.
the worst situations. So practicing gratitudes daily, just in general, and then practicing gratitudes that are very specific and very focused. So maybe you missed a deadline, maybe you did lose a listing. What are the gratitudes around that you can find? It really changes your perspective and gives you a little bit of that extra juice, that little gas to keep going on to the next one. Okay, well, I screwed that up 3 ways to Sunday. Now I'm not. The gratitude is, man, am I grateful that I'm realizing that now? And then I have a different path for the next time.
And this aligns with earlier when you kept talking about being at cause, right? Understanding that you own it, whatever it is, you own it. And so gratitude is part of that, right? If something bad happens, quote unquote, to me, I have 2 opportunities. One is to look at that as though I'm a victim and something happened to me that I had no control over, and bad things happen to good people and all the boohoo, wah, wah, wah. Or alternatively, I could say, what is the blessing here? What have I learned here? What's my opportunity moving forward? How will I grow from this? How do I now know what to do next time? What would someone else do? And how can I learn from that, right? Whatever that is, I can be grateful for that opportunity for education, growth, perspective, etc. And that Joanne says it right here in the chat. Sometimes losing a listing is a gift, right? But sometimes losing in general is a gift. That's what's interesting. And we don't always see that, but that is where the greatest growth happens, is when we experience failures, what feels like setbacks in the moment. But anytime you look backwards, Steve Jobs says you can't see how the dots are going to connect looking forward. You can only see how they did connect when you look backward. And I think that that's kind of part of what we're talking about here.
So Steve, maybe you can pop this in. I have a little theory here about people that live and die in grace. And that is, they probably live in gratitude. They're probably pretty happy people. They don't dwell in the negative. They have good energy vibrations. They're people that you really enjoy spending time with and seeing. And my guess is that people that pass with a lot of grace, they're not tied to those negative things in their life, the negative elements. They don't feel like they disappointed a bunch of expectation in their life. They don't feel like they lost moments. They feel like they lived a life full of gratitude and full of positivity. And that's why they, I think, die with some grace.
Punctuate that with
Yep.
gratitude. I
Yep.
love that.
So if you're practicing those things, because we don't know how much time we get. If you live tomorrow and you're doing gratitudes it only until tomorrow, but you've been living in gratitude up to that point, you're going to have a pretty great experience of your life in those last moments.
And by the way, if you don't think about your death very often, change that. That's a real suggestion here. The Stoics, a lot of philosophers, actually, I would argue every major philosopher ever has argued that living your life with the perspective of your death makes for a stronger life. I believe it makes you a stronger person. I think it will make you much more successful in business because it strips a lot of fear out of you. You won't be afraid of your death the more you think about it, because you start to understand the amazing value and the gratitude in the moment of being
your
alive.
life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
really good.
that's the ultimate drive to the airport, right? We're all driving to that same airport, you guys. That flight is going to land at some point. You know, how we get there and what path we take on the way there makes a difference.
I love it.
Okay. Focus wheel. This is not like other wheels. We've talked about life wheels where we've said, hey, you guys need to be thinking about different aspects of your life and thinking about where you are so that you can improve. This is not the same wheel. This is a different wheel. This is about a goal because, and we have a different a version of this that we're going to talk about in a few minutes too. But this is the invisible bridge that I was talking about. It's one thing to believe that the bridge is there. It's another thing to take the step, because I can dream about being 20 pounds lighter or in better condition and able to go, run my 15 miles a week. But I can't just think about it and have it happen. I actually have to go do it. So I have to build in opportunities through my day to do the right things, right? So this is about affirmations. Why don't you tell the story of our friend Jerry?
Yeah, well, and I will. That's awesome. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And part of what we're going to do with these affirmations is we're going to think that we can. And that's what's going to be really awesome. Our friend Jerry is incredible. He's a great business owner, makes insane money. I'll just leave it at that. And is an absolute maniac advocate for all things the laws of attraction. Absolutely loves this concept and talks with us about it regularly because it's been so powerful in his life. He didn't come from money and now makes millions and millions a month, and it's just awesome. And so, but one of the things that he did when he knew he wanted to find his perfect partner in this world is he created exactly what you're seeing on this screen. I mean, his didn't say my supply of money is infinite. He spoke about his ideal, right? He spoke about his ideal partner, but he did this exercise. In fact, from my understanding from him, he did focus wheels on every individual element of how he wanted this to work. I mean, really got granular, put it up on his wall, looked at it 5 times a day, said these affirmations out loud. But what's amazing is the wheel really is a central affirmation followed by 12 supporting statements around it. It's that simple. You don't need a fancy worksheet. If you don't want one, we have one for you, by the way, but you don't need it. You could just literally draw a couple circles and 12 little blurbs off to the side, but you need a central affirmation. In this case, we're talking about money on the oh, by the way, Jerry found his person. You remember this part of the story so much better than I did, but didn't he bump into her like in the grocery store or something like that? And then there was like
he met her in the grocery store. He knew that she was the one.
Yep.
He was like, that's her. He believes that he manifested her. It's kind of funny. I keep thinking about the 80s movie Weird Science, if you've ever seen that, where they make the girl. But he is he just had her in his brain and he met her at the grocery store. He pushed himself to the edge and had to exchange a couple words with her just to be friendly. And then figured out that that was her regular grocery store. And for 4 months, he went back at that same time of day periodically to try to run into her and meet her again. When he finally did, 4 months later, run into her again, he told her, he just said, listen, I've been waiting for you for 4 months. I knew I needed to meet you. I've had this dream of my perfect partner, and I think you're her. Can we go out to dinner?
And the craziest part, guys, and I want to validate this because Barry's not a lunatic. He's an absolute amazing guy and super smart in business.
I guarantee you own something in your house that he started.
Correct. And so what's really amazing though is then they went out to dinner and every single affirmation that was on there, I believe she is this way. I believe she has this faith. I believe that she has this love, this care, this compassion, that she has this feeling towards kids or whatever. I don't know all the specifics of what was on there for him, but apparently every single one of those was perfectly in alignment. And so there was a sense of feeling. Now, interestingly, Jerry didn't just do this for the first time in this circumstance. This is something he'd been practicing for a long time in his life, business life, personal life, and it worked. I believe in this. I use this. I think it works unbelievably well, but you need central affirmations with supporting affirmations. You use this by placing it up in your house or in your office, somewhere where you're going to see it multiple times a day, and then stating these affirmations out loud with your heart and your intention behind them multiple times per day. And I know that might sound wacky to you if it's new, but that's only because it's new. As it turns out, you weren't great at walking the first time you ever tried either. So this is just new, not wrong. Now, if you'd like to do your own, we have this link here that we can put in the chat. In fact, I'll grab it real quick here. And there's a link to ours. Actually, I think I can make that clickable. Hold on, guys. Sorry, everyone who's watching this on the replay. There we go. And so you can do your own. But whatever you're putting in the middle, this could be a business goal, it could be a financial goal, it could be about abundance, it could be about reducing stress, losing weight, finding your perfect partner, whatever it is, growing your hair back. Probably not going to work on that one. But what I will tell you is this will change your outcomes rapidly. And if this feels boo-boo, just take my word for it. Get over that for a second and try it.
This is creating your own luck. Like what, oh, can you put in the link, the one that you have filled in?
Yes, sir.
This is what Joanne was talking about. This is the preparation for the moment that you have the opportunity, right? So you're putting in the middle the opportunity that you want to manifest, that you want to have happen. And everything around it is basically your mindset, your energy space, your focused attention that needs to be there to make sure that this happens. So these can be action steps, they can be all affirmations, they can be any and or all of those things, because it takes all of those things some days to get you, off the couch to go run that 2 miles, or to go in there and, make the calls that you need to make that day to reach out to people to hit your goals, right? To break through the ceilings, the perceived ceilings that you have in your business or your life or whatever it is.
Yep. And one of the things that we do here, in fact, Joe just noticed this, is that you're going to speak your future reality as though it's current in the present, right? So I am fully in abundance. I have plenty of money. I have everything that I need. My bank account is full and exploding. My wealth is overflowing, and I'm able to give in abundance to everyone around me without hesitation, right? Those are statements of truth in my future. Does that make sense? And so I would encourage you, as you're doing affirmations, to start practicing that, to speak your future into reality today. Speak your future into reality right now.
But also thinking about, because if we're this, the laws of attraction are really about that energy and the vibration and putting things out that we want to come back. So, I mean, let's be real. You're a toad if you I want to be a billionaire. Okay, well, money is great. Money is awesome. And it's the very common example. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, hope or strive to have, to increase our potential to the point that we're making more money, because the reality is we function in a world that is supported by financial gain and things cost money. But I would encourage you to do this. When you're doing your gratitudes, we do this sometimes too. We play lots of games like the challenge games, like how would you spend, $1 million on yourself? Or how would you spend $1 million on other people, or 10,000 or whatever? But how about this game? What would you do if you could, how would you feel? How would you make your life completely fulfilled? How would you become the happiest person on this earth if nothing in your financial world from this day forward ever changed? Can you be happy? Can you resonate powerful energy that is positive? Can you give to the world if nothing in your financial situation ever changed?
Probably a yes, and also an opportunity to envision something greater for yourself. And here's what's interesting is that law of reciprocity. When that mindset shift to I already have, I like your question that you put on here earlier of what do you really need, right? And that's such a great question, because air, water, that's pretty much that's it, right? And so it's not that much that we really need. We tell ourselves a lot about needs based on comparison with others. In fact, I saw a great Gary Vaynerchuk quote, or a snippet recently, where he was speaking to an audience of younger people. And he said, what's weird about being young is you spend so much time, energy, and attention trying to create wealth so that you can buy dumb shit to impress people you don't even like. And that was I know it's a little snarky, but it's kind of true of this sense of comparison being our metric for gratitude in our lives early on. And later on, what it becomes is about our opportunity to give back, to give more, to provide more value. For me, every single time I do one of these financial exercises, we do them together, which is so powerful. If you're in a couple, by the way, do this together. And if you're looking for your perfect partner, look for someone who wants to do this together, by the way. But when we do this, ultimately it always turns into where we can give more, where we can provide more value for others. And that heart change needs to happen in order for, if you find, by the way, I saw Steve hit on here, thanks for sharing vulnerably, I appreciate that you felt a ceiling. Sometimes that ceiling has to do with lacking a vision about what that more would equal in terms of what you can give in the world. Right? And the second you start connecting that to a bigger vision of your impact and the difference that you can make in the lives of others, boom, instantly your perspective on where you can go change. And automatically you see new avenues and opportunities and experiences that can take you to the next level and will change. And if all of this sounds a little woo-woo, here's what I'll say. Just do this exercise. That's why we're giving it to you. And start doing it regularly, and you'll have these huge key breakthroughs inside yourself. But it is about the consistency. You can't do this today, forget about it tomorrow, and expect results next week. It won't happen.
At EXPCon a couple of years ago, if you were there, we heard John Sheplak, who's an amazing life coach and an amazing person with a great story. And one of the strongest people physically and emotionally, I think, that I've ever heard speak. But he says, in your lowest moment, when you need something the most, that's when you need to go give whatever that is to someone else. So when you're in your last moment of hope, when you think it can't get any worse, go help somebody else. That is part of the laws of attraction, because that's all about reciprocity. It's all about perspective and relativity. It's all about those things. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's worth giving a shot.
Well, and reciprocity is not quid pro quo. If I go give my last $500 to a family that I know desperately needs it, they want to have Christmas for their kids and they have no money, right? I don't expect them to pay that back to me. That's not how reciprocity works. I simply understand that what I have given will return. And my faith, my true understanding of the way that the universe works is that that will happen. And by the way, embracing that vulnerability in that moment is part of what will make you unstoppable, because what you're really saying to yourself is, I don't need you, money, but what I do need is the power of giving. And I am choosing to value giving over value hoarding or value holding or valuing my fear. I'm going to value giving the most. And when I do that, instantly that comes back to me. And I promise you this works time and time again. If it doesn't work for you, call me. I'll give you a refund. Just kidding. 222-111-1212. All right. So here we go. Next one. And some of you have done these before, I hope. But we're going to give you a couple new perspectives on how to approach this. This is called a dream board or a visualization board. It's a really powerful exercise when done correctly. And so we want to give some guidance around how to do this correctly today.
The most important thing about a vision board is it gets you stimulated into thinking about what could be, right? About your potential, about the route that you're going. So, and it puts it right in front of you in some real ways. Although I don't know, I haven't had a magazine in forever. So used to be that it was easy to do that. But yeah, but it keeps it in front of you. It helps you with the visualization process. The thing for me that is always missing is, what are the action steps, right? Like, what if these are all a destination, what's the route to get there? And so in that, Jeff and I just super quickly created this, like, here's your little star chart for each of those elements that you put onto your vision chart. I think you need to have one of these stars that you put there that is, okay, if I'm going to do this, what are the actions that I need to take to get there? Everything that you do needs to be in service of that goal, or those 7 goals, or those 2 goals, or whatever it is. But if you're not, you can't just put it on your dream board or your visualization board and just leave it there. It's not going to happen.
No.
It's not going to happen unless you take the steps to make it so.
And ultimately that's about inspired action, right? Which is one of our laws today. Also,
and control.
And big time, and not losing control, retaining that cause and effect, right? Ultimately. So everything that goes on your vision board, and I had the great opportunity of learning this from a really strong 8-figure earner at the time. And I was brand new to business. I was like, wow, blew my mind. Everything needs to hit an emotional trigger for you. So if you have a perfect body that you're trying to achieve, you need to search for something visual, if that's something that works for you, vision boards obviously require vision. So hopefully everybody here has that working for them today. But ultimately, some positive, tangible, emotional reminder that can take you to this place. Audio boards are probably possible if you need an alternative. But I will tell you that a vision board can connect you back to your emotional reality and about what got you started in that journey in the first place. And how often have we lost that, right? This is why so often, here we are, January 3rd. I guarantee that about half the people who set an intention on January 1st, this year is going to be my year and I'm going to do this, that, and that. And now it's January 3rd and they're like, I'm tired. I don't know. It's not working out. Right? You get that. And so ultimately, this is about having a constant visual reminder. There was a Harvard study a number of years ago about writing your goals down. This is kind of a writing your goals down, but it's writing the emotion of your goal. And it's something hopefully that will trigger your emotions. So you have to find visuals that trigger that emotional reality. And then I agree with Lexy, backing that up with 12 action steps or 12 action items, or at least 12 affirmations in service of those goals, is going to move you in that direction much more rapidly.
And I mean, honestly, even if it's like everybody has little tricks. Jeff is really great at like lying to himself and convincing himself to, but and I have my own little way of doing things. Like if I want to start running again, I'm going to go out and I'm going to spend like $180 on the most supreme pair of running shoes that I got fitted for me and the whole shebang because I'm cheap. And if I spend that much money on running shoes, I will use them.
Y'all, she's
It's
so
funny,
cheap.
but that's how I work. That's how I work. Jeff has different, ways of convincing himself to go do things. You gotta hack your own self, your own psyche, whatever it is that gets you to where you need to be.
I love that. Hack yourself.
So we tried to give you guys a couple of options. So like manifest a vision for your life and use the wheel to create those action steps, those affirmations, those things that you want to do. Build a vision board, set a goal there, and then write the action steps to get there. What are those really going to do? And can you measure them? You guys know me, I love measurable objectives. So I'm like, every action step needs to have something that you can measure, a benchmark that you can say, did I do it or didn't I do it? And if I didn't do it, what do I need to do it?
By the way, I'm going to give you a quick aside on this stuff while we're going through these exercises together. And I love how many of you are participating right now and are all in. I can tell you from our own experiences, having been in some of the greatest rooms in the world with great speakers who are really, really dialed in on this stuff, your ability to truly connect with the content here, by the way, is going to dramatically impact what you're capable of moving forward. But I want to give you a superpower right now. And this superpower will give you calm, and it will actually improve your cognitive response time, which that's fancy verbiage for how smart you is. And so we're going to try and help you guys get it together because what's part of what we do is really taming our mind, because without your mind, you, or the essence of you, stops existing. Your energy does, and that's great. But your clarity about who you are, your id, your ego, all of that is connected to your ability to think. And as it turns out, there's now hard data supporting this powerful effect of meditation. And if you're not doing this and you're thinking to yourself, I don't have time for that, we're talking 5 minutes. We're going to show you a quick, just patterned, easy way to do this. There's a lot of like deeper stuff, and you get apps for it and mindfulness, and those are all amazing. But I would encourage you to start somewhere. Getting started is the biggest thing. But establishing a consistent mindfulness routine will lead to tranquility in your daily life. So I want you to find a comfortable seated position, gently close your eyes, and center your attention on your breath. Try to zero out your mind. Don't get upset with yourself if you have a thought. Thoughts are normal. That's just a normal human response. Allow the thought to go away and focus again on your breath. And the idea is to try to get to the moment when there are no thoughts. And you should lose yourself in that moment, meaning you can't really have awareness of that moment, because awareness of that moment is a thought. Prevent your mind from wandering and try to do this for 5 minutes. I would recommend a timer, because ultimately keeping track of time is hard otherwise. But check this out. This is hard data from the body of science that's emerging right now that supports that meditation is so powerful for health and wellness. And if you think there's no connection between your mind and body, Lexy talked about it earlier, right? Like you've experienced stress and people lose their hair or have skin reactions or, panic and sweat, have heart attacks. I mean, geez Louise, it's awful. And look at this list. Who doesn't want to have reduced stress, better emotional well-being, enhanced cognitive function, brain structure changes, better sleep, lower blood pressure, improved immune function, 5 minutes a day? If I can sell you on nothing else, this would be really powerful for helping to gain clarity, focus, and thereby execution in your life and in your business life. Awesome stuff. All right. This next one is something we do regularly, and I absolutely love it. This is called venturing out of your comfort zone, and I would encourage you to do this once every single day.
You don't have to do it as radically as we do, like move halfway around the world, sell everything you own, those kinds of things, but you can.
You can.
It's pretty awesome. As John Sellers, our great friend and brother, calls it, creating chaos in our world. But we like chaos because it upsets the way we see the world in a good way. It changes it. It shifts our perspective.
Forces you into rapid change. Now, here's what's interesting. If you're really committed to harnessing the power of your subconscious mind to attain your goals, then what you're going to have to do is to step outside your comfort zone. How do we know? Because comfort means stability and stability means staying still, right? Like things aren't in change. Humans tend to be change averse. But the interesting thing is better means you must change. I'm going to turn off the screen share for a second. So I want you to think through this. How many people on this call would like something in their life to be better? And how many of you feel like you can achieve that better without anything changing at all?
Yeah, no.
So if you want a better life, you're going to have to change. That is just baked in. And interestingly, if you want a much better life, you're going to need much change. And so change actually is this thing that sometimes we're like, well, but change is scary because what if it all goes wrong and what I have now? And then what if I lose everything that I got and I can't go back? And you tell yourself all the stories. And then that crazy, horrible, everything that could go wrong reel goes off in your head. So let's talk about how to harness this and how to use it. You have to have a daily habit of going into unfamiliar territories. And this is a great exercise. You can do it on a micro level and it'll start to manifest in the macro parts of your life. But embracing a daily diet of disruption is another way to think about this. Just disrupting your patterns can be great. This could be super simple stuff. I mean, some examples.
Well, try a new food. Try not eating for a day. We fast regularly. That's a big one. I mean, we get really tied and connected to the things that we think are really important. Not that eating isn't important. Eating is very important, but sometimes we don't know what it's like to not eat for a day. That changes your perspective. Take a different route, get out and go somewhere new. Go to a part of town you've never been in. Go do something that you never thought you would like to do. Some people think escape rooms are stupid, right? We actually just had a conversation with Jeff's parents and they were like, we've never done this escape room thing. I would never go because Jeff's mom is a little like germophobic and all this stuff, but they went.
Loved.
And they were like, oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I mean, but it really opened up their mind to the fact that there's just something different.
Yep.
So do something different. If you watch TV every night, don't watch TV for a night.
That's a big one.
Go for a walk, play with your dog, put a puzzle together, learn a new game. I don't know, whatever it is. And teach your kids to do this. Teach your partner. Talk to your friends about this. Call your friend up and say, what are you doing? And they tell you something, be like, I've never done that. I'm coming over.
Absolutely.
You just have to change it up no matter what it is.
I mean, I think about a big one, at least. I remember we were out on our walk. I'm just trying to draw from our recent experiences here. And Lexy said, hey, let's disrupt our pattern. And she had this idea about walking up this hill that we had never gone on. And we had no idea was up there. By the way, we take late night walks very frequently, 11, 12, 1, 2 in the morning. And so we're out there. We've got our dogs. We go up this hill. We're in this area we've not been in. We're going away. And somebody, I don't know if I would do that. Listen, You have to constantly challenge yourself to do new things and disrupt your patterns so that you don't stay in a safe place. Safe people don't grow, and non-growth means you won't achieve big goals, right? Maybe you'll achieve your enough goal just to make it to tomorrow. And if that's what life is about for you, reevaluate. Because trust me, on your deathbed, you're not going to be like, gosh, I sure am glad I played it safe, right? All right. And so you have to engage in those new experiences. We recommend a daily diet. It's just really fun. Even if you're just driving to Starbucks, take a new route.
Meeting new goals, reaching your potential, all of those things require you to let go of something else. And changing your comfort zone, getting out of that is what helps you to do that, because you can't, it's like you've always said, you can't see the picture when you're inside of the frame. The only way to get that perspective of being outside of the frame is to change it, is to question, is to move forward and turn around and look back and say, wow, I was really stuck there for a long time. Like, I let myself eat way too much crap over the holidays, and that was my excuse. And now I'm like, I just don't feel good. Like, it's not about, weight or anything else. It's about my health, and I can feel it. Like, I get out of bed and my ankles hurt when I get out of bed. I'm like, wow, I just know that that's because I've been putting too much not good stuff in my body. So time to make a change. But I had to get out of that perspective. I had to go, wow, I don't like this. What can I do different?
Yeah. Lexy pushes me on this a lot. And I'll give you one more example because I know some of you are trying to think about this. And I will say, in the Tony Robbins masterminds that we're in, they'll always say, and go one step further. So for instance, you take a new route, stop your car for a minute, get out, walk into that field that you've never touched the ground on. Maybe take your shoes off. I know that sounds weird. I promise you, you will change your life radically if you start doing this, guys. Radically. Everything. Your results will change. I can't quite explain it, to be honest with you, but it will work. And my example personally is I used to be really very kind of, I don't know how to describe, there's a great word. I didn't want to get sand on myself is probably that. Like I didn't like dirt. I didn't like things being on me. I'm kind of a clean cat, if that makes any sense. And this was earlier in our relationship. I remember it because it was so powerful. And we were at a beach. We were in Hawaii. Yeah. And Lexy told me, she's like, what do you don't want that sand on you? Because I was kind of getting weirded out. And she's like, let's go get in the water. So we got in the water and then we got out and she's like, now let's roll around in the sand until we turn into churros.
Sugar donuts, yeah.
Sugar donuts. And I was like, oh no, but I knew she was pushing me to get outside my comfort zone. This is what a great partner, by the way, does for you in your life. So it's incredible. And so guess what? I have a great picture of myself covered completely in sand. It was hilarious. I just turned myself into a sand monster. And in conquering that moment, though, by the way, I still remember it vividly because this is what happens with your mind when you push yourself outside your comfort zone. Comfort zone is not memorable. Outside comfort zone is memorable. Life becomes really vibrant and energetic. So push yourself outside whatever's comfortable for you. And then, by the way, go one step further. Okay. And then our last exercise for the day, because we're right at time, is garbage in, garbage out. And this is more of a mindfulness exercise to keep in your mind all the time. And that is effectively, and we'll go through this one really quickly, but I want you to see down here at the bottom of the slide, what you consume consumes you. If you watch negative news all day long, you're going to be full of negative news and you will be the negative news, Nancy, right? Or the negative news, what's an guy name? I don't know. And so Nico. And so, that's not where you want to be. If you consume negative rhetoric from people who are around you or people telling you that that's not possible, you'll never make it.
Or affirmations.
Or victims, right? Whatever goes into you all the time will be what comes out of you. It becomes your perspective and your perspective becomes your reality. I believe this to be true. We practice this diligently.
And I think the only other thing is, you must be the gatekeeper to your mind space because no one else is going to do it for you. So this isn't a political stance or a religious stance or anything like that. It's just for you. Why do we do things constantly that make us feel bad? So think about the language that you use when you say, well, it's my fault. Or you win. Okay, you win. Those are really, I feel like those are negative tropes that we use in our everyday life that make us feel like, okay, it's a win-lose situation. No, it's not. It's really not. And I know, okay, Joanne, come back, Joanne.
Joanne raised her hand and then ran away. Run away.
Hey, Joanne.
You able to unmute?
I had to go get the remote to the TV.
Awesome.
Okay, so what I wanted to say is that when I was a kid, my mom was constantly telling us garbage in, garbage out. Like that was her number one motto or whatever, and it affected me, and it has steered the course of my life in that I've always been cognizant of what movies I watch, what music I listen to, what people I listen to, and all that stuff, because it was like an instilled value in me when I was very little. So I just wanted to encourage parents who have young kids. I mean, it's too late for me because my kids are grown, but you know, the things that you tell your kids, they stick. So, you know, obviously it has to do with positive affirmations of them as well, and telling them that they are worth, you know, that they're worth gold and all that stuff to you, and that you love them, but also things that will affect what they put inside themselves, whether it's physical or in their minds or whatever. Anyway, I just want to throw that out there because when you said the garbage in, garbage out, that's something that has steered my whole life.
Yeah, I love that. And it's critical. And it's another factor of control, like good control, right? We have the control in our life to have negative or positive tropes, to have affirmations, or what I call naffirmations. And I can get stuck in those naffirmations, those negative affirmations in my life, which is, you know, saying those things like, man, I really screwed that up. Oh, I was wrong. Oh, you know,
I'm so stupid,
should've, or whatever. And we're so used to that, but that's really bad. So it's all tied. Part of being in control of your energy, part of thinking about opportunity and changing things so that you are growing constantly as a person, and your vision, you're stepping outside of that frame. All of those things are tied to this idea that at the end of the day, it's up to us. That's the only thing we can control. And so our wish for you, I guess, in this moment as we start 2024 is that, yes, go reach your potential, set some audacious goals, and find the pathway. Let us help you if that's it for business. But also don't forget that your business is nothing without your mindset, without your heart, without your energy. And if you stay focused on that first, everything else will align with that. And so use your energy status and some of these, you know, the 12 laws of attraction, and keep those in your head as kind of the baseline points for what you're doing in life. And if it doesn't measure up, get rid of it. Find another route, you know, get help, call somebody, call one of us. You know, we called this group of people the community for a reason. Some people like the word tribe or whatever. What we know is when we come together as a community, we all have our own individual parts of that, but it's symbiotic, right? We feed off of each other. And so we're part of the community. Reach out to each other, be a part of it. We love you guys. We want you to have the most spectacular year yet.
Woo-hoo.
So
yes, we do.
So lean into the energy, practice the 12 laws of attraction, and go get it.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here. We love you guys. We're the community.
Don't forget about Attraction Mastermind tomorrow. And next week, tune in every Wednesday. We're here. Coaching hours on Tuesday. Love you guys.
Thank you.